Okay, I think we're live, which is really great. So I'll just give people a few minutes to jump on to the YouTube live, and then we'll get started. In the meantime, get comfy, get a drink or something. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, we'll just say welcome to everybody who's joining us. We'll be starting in a few minutes. I say we'll start at about 5:05. So just give it a few more minutes and then we'll get going. Okay, we're going to get started soon. So just once again, welcome everybody to the live Q&A. All right. Right, should we get going, guys? Fab. Okay, right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our live Q&A today with InsideUni and Aspire Liverpool. This partnership between Aspire and InsideUni has been in the works for a few months now, so I'm really excited to welcome you all to today's event, and I hope that you all really enjoy it and find it really useful. So today's event that you're all watching or listening to, if you're thinking of applying to Oxford or Cambridge, it means you can get a little glimpse into what it might be like to apply and also study here. So we've got 6 students, including myself, who are currently at Oxford or Cambridge, who applied from Liverpool. I'm going to spend about an hour today talking about our experiences and answering your questions about what it's like. So just very briefly, just a quick agenda for the event. So we're going to start with some introductions, a little discussion about why we chose to apply to Oxbridge and our experiences of that, and also what it's like to study here, kind of day in the lifestyle. And then we'll move on to answering some of your pre-submitted questions and anything that you might want to leave in the YouTube live comments. So that's just your reminder that you can ask any questions related to what it's like to be at Oxbridge, be a Scouser at Oxbridge in our YouTube live comments. And we've got the very helpful Tommy, who you can't see, but is there to let us know what those questions are. So we will see them. Before we get going with the Q&A, I'd just like to introduce InsideUni and Aspire Liverpool to you all. So I'm Ellie, I'm the head of outreach at InsideUni, which is a completely free website, which has lots of crowdsourced information and advice from current students about applying to Oxbridge. That advice includes guides about applying to different subjects and courses, sitting different admissions tests, and also over 3,000 interview testimonies with advice and experiences about the interview process. We also have a big range of video Q&As similar to this one available on our website and also on our YouTube channel, which is very near to you. We will drop the link to the website in the chat, and I'm just going to pass on to Harry, who is going to introduce Aspire Liverpool to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. And yeah, and it's great to see the faces around here. Say many more Scousers in Oxford and Cambridge. And you're right, it's we've been putting this in the mill for quite a while, actually trying to put this together with InsideUni. It's a great resource. Aspire Liverpool is a project that works with schools across the city, Liverpool, and soon to be hopefully the city region as well. We work with bright students across the city, helping them and inspiring them to apply to Oxbridge. There are lots of misconceptions about attending and studying at both universities, and hopefully the event tonight and the Q&A will help some people who are thinking about applying from the city, whether they be on the Aspire programme or not, about actually doing it. If you're bright enough, you've got the brains to do it, and you've got the aspirations to do this, you absolutely should do it. That's the point of our programme. We've got about 400 students that we work with at any given time, and if you are interested in coming to our programme, you should definitely speak to your teachers at school who are aware of the programme. We have great links with schools. So yeah, please enjoy this evening. Get as much as you can from the students around us this evening as well. Again, great to see Scousers. There's lots of them there, but we need a lot more. So please, 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 definitely think about applying to Oxbridge. Thanks, Ellie.
All right, thanks so much, Harry. So we're going to start with just some little introductions. So I'll go first. I'm Ellie. I'm a second year studying geography at Oxford at Teddy Hall. I grew up in Chilwell and I went to Belrive. So I'll just pass on.
Hi, I'm Lucy. I study history and politics at University College in Oxford. I went to Bluecoat for school. And
Hi, I'm Roshan. I'm a third year medic at University College Oxford, and I also went to Bluecoat with Luce. I'm from Egbert originally, and I'll be here for the next 3 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Alice. I'm a first year lawyer at Trinity College, Oxford. I'm from Walton, and I went to St John Bosco Arts College in Croxteth. And I also should have mentioned that I was on the Aspire programme myself. So.
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm a first year PBSer, so I do psychology at Girton College, Cambridge. I've lived everywhere in Liverpool, but right now we live in Anfield, and I went to Belrive with Ellie.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm first year historian at St Hilda's College in Oxford. I grew up in Hunts Cross and I went to Archbishop Blanche.
All right, thanks so much for introducing yourself, everyone. So we're just going to start with about 10-15 minutes of talking about our experiences of applying to Oxford and Cambridge and what it's like to study there now. So my first question for you guys is, what made you apply to Oxbridge and what was it like applying from Liverpool?
I can definitely talk about why I applied to Oxbridge, and I think for a lot of people it'll be a big concern, but I chose to apply precisely because I was told that, you know, applying to Oxford, being a Scouser, is absolute madness. Not exactly the kind of place that you imagine us to be, but obviously this Zoom call definitely proves it very wrong. There are a lot of us here, and the minute I heard that, like a true lawyer, very stubborn, decided, no, I'm going to apply, I'm going to prove you all wrong, and I'm going to get in. It's a little bit funny because my original plan was to, you know, apply, prove everyone wrong, and then go to a different university that I decided was the one for me and that I really enjoyed. And slowly, as I was putting my plan into action and convincing everybody and discussing it more, and it became a big thing. Like I'd work on my personal statement here, or I'd look into some legal news there. I slowly started thinking, okay, this could actually, be a good university. Maybe I should have a bit more of a think. And then each day coming home and going, oh, you know what, maybe I could go to Oxford, if I got in, maybe that would be a potential option. And slowly more and more, as I think I managed to change those perceptions whilst applying, I started to change my own and started to think, you know what, I actually quite like this place. If I do get in, I could consider it. And yeah, I think it definitely was confirmed the minute I got my offer, and I jumped out of my seat in the middle of a history class and ran to my head of sixth form. I was like, we've done it. So that was a big reason why I decided to apply here. Originally started off out of spite and stubbornness, and chose in the end because I really grew to love the university, and I'm so happy that I made this choice.
That's a really lovely story.
Ooh.
Sorry. So I originally applied to Oxbridge just because my history teacher at my year 12 parents' evening sort of suggested that maybe I should consider it. At that time, I had not even considered applying for history, never mind at Oxford. So I started to think more about it. And I quite like challenging myself. So I thought, well, there's nothing to lose. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go. I'm going to have to, you know, write my personal statement and things anyway. There's not that much extra to do. So I just sort of challenged myself. I thought I probably won't get in, but it'll be an experience anyway. And then I got the interview, and then eventually got an offer, and I was really shocked and really happy. And then as the time came closer to actually going to uni, so sort of like the summer after sixth form, as like results day was creeping closer, I just was becoming increasingly terrified about the idea of going to uni in general, moving away from home, going to Oxford specifically. I was just absolutely terrified. I really did not want to go. I thought it was just not the place for me. I thought I wouldn't fit in, wouldn't be able to make friends, that everyone would have a really different sort of like life experience to me, background to me, that everyone would be sort of basically aristocrats, and I wouldn't be able to sort of relate to them. And that I have a very typical big Scouse family as well. So I was just like, I won't be able to, you know, survive away from home without my family. So it took a lot of work to sort of get me to uni. Like, I think the application bit was sort of the easier part. It was the getting over this sort of hurdle that I put in front of myself to get me to uni. And then once I got here, that I realized somehow there were 5 people from Merseyside just in my year in my college. So somehow we have made the Scouse college somehow. So that was like a really nice surprise. And within sort of weeks, I just settled in so quickly. So actually it was so much easier than I anticipated. But I think that was like not coming from a traditional Oxford background, I think like did create that barrier for me, and yeah, made me quite apprehensive, not about applying but about actually building up the courage to go. But yeah, I was pretty much wrong about everything, and I've had like a lovely 3 years while I've been here. Anyway.
I didn't actually have it in my mind that I was going to apply to Cambridge until not that long before applications actually started. There's not one thing that like set me on applying to Oxbridge, but there was a lot of little things. Like, one of my A-level teachers, my psychology teacher actually, had helped someone get into Oxbridge at her previous school, and one of the YouTubers that I watched, because I was like really into academics at the time, was at Oxford, and I started looking into it. So I started looking at psychology on both Oxford and Cambridge's website, and I noticed that Cambridge doesn't actually like care too much about your GCSEs, and I had extenuating circumstances going on at the time, so I thought, oh, this is something I could actually go for, because when I was younger I was very much like, university isn't for me, like I'm not made for it. So I saw that and I was like, that's an opportunity. And it was like something I was considering for a while, and then my school sent around a form where they were like, are you considering applying to Oxbridge? And I just ticked yes, because it was in my mind somewhere. And I ended up talking to the head of sixth form about it, and she was like, yes, we'll totally support you to go through with that. And they were really supportive most of the time. There was like a few issues because I did a really complicated qualification at A-level that isn't quite an A-level. So I had to like email a college at Cambridge and be like, hi, would you consider my application? But that is something you can do if you have any questions about that. And they got back to me like, yes, we consider you. So I did end up like doing an open application. I didn't choose a specific college because I didn't know who would take the qualification, but I got allocated to Girton, and I did the test that I have to do for my subject, got an interview, got in, surprisingly. My interviews were really nice, and I just saw it as like an opportunity to like learn from it, and it was a really nice experience. Yeah.
It's good to hear that you all had, well, different experiences applying. But it seems like, you know, you all got a lot of support, which is really lovely to hear. I guess the second question I have, like, related to that is, what's kind of a typical day in your life like at Oxford or Cambridge? Is it as work heavy as people expect it to be?
Yeah, so I do medicine, so it's pretty different to other degrees. I don't know if it would be more useful to everyone for maybe like Sarah or someone to start with theirs, because I've got quite a different sort of schedule to most people, and then I can kind of say my bit.
I mean, I'm happy to go first. So I study geography. Oh, I think we've lost Sarah on her Wi-Fi. We'll get her back in a minute. So I study geography, which is a social science. So there are physical geographers and human geographers, but we all study in the same subject. But I'm a human geographer, which means I do lots of reading. So my day will probably start with a lecture. In second year, we maybe have four lectures or so a week. And then, oh, hi, Sarah.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi's so bad.
Don't worry. Yeah, so probably 4 lectures or so a week in second year, and then I'll get on with reading for a tutorial essay because we have about 1 of those a week. So that'll sort of take me up to lunchtime, and then after lunchtime I'll probably do a bit more reading, and maybe do some music practice to have a bit of a break, and then I'll make some tea, which is always fun. I live out in second year, so I get to cook my own food, which is really, really good fun. And then in the evening, if I am bit work heavy, then I might do some extracurricular work or get on with more academic work, because sometimes that is the luck of the draw. And then other times I'll, you know, relax with my housemates. And in first year we always had lots on in the college, lots of like social events to do. So busy days, and it is a lot of work, but I think it's quite manageable. And I've never had an experience where a tutor has told me that I can't have an extension on something if I've been struggling with the work.
Yeah, so I feel like my experience is quite similar. I like get an essay title at the start of the week, and then I go away and read for the week and like create an argument, read around the subject. And it kind of sounds quite daunting, but you can definitely balance it with a really, really good social life. And I think it's really nice to especially go out into the city. Like, there's not a bad looking library in all of Oxford. Like, you'll always have a nice day working, and if you really enjoy the subject as well, which I definitely have found my specialty. If you want to apply to history, you might have to do bits that you don't like every now and again with any subject. Sorry, that's really loud helicopter.
I can also hear that.
Yeah, so can I. It must be over central Oxford.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I think we have like an air base near us. I just put myself on mute because nothing's going right. My Wi-Fi is so bad as well. But anyway, where I was, I just would add that like the social life is really good, and that was something that I was worried about. I mean, my second choice was Newcastle Uni, and in my head I was like, I'm just not going to have the same experience. Like, the clubs won't be as good. And even though like my first year, obviously clubs haven't been open, I've had still a really good social life. And I can imagine in a normal year, it would be like any other uni experience, and just with additional work. But it kind of gets you out of bed in the morning, and it is a really like hectic 8 weeks, but it's so enjoyable. And I think I came with a lot of assumptions that I would not like it, and all my friends at home would have such a better social life than me, and it was just not true. And I think that the college system especially is really supportive, and I would just recommend to everyone that like it's not what you think it is, and it is, you will find your people, and it is busy, but the day-to-day life is enjoyable.
Yeah, so as a medic, my day is pretty different. Because obviously there's like national requirements for what you have to learn. Our stuff is quite lecture-based as opposed to like other subjects which are quite tube-based. So we will get tutorials as well, and we'll get an essay title, usually on a certain part of like the digestive system or a certain problem. And then the lectures that we have during the week will kind of cover that and the basics that you need to know. But then we'll also have time to kind of read into more detail, and kind of, the essay titles won't be like, how does the liver work? It'll be like a bit more complicated and a bit more interesting to think about. So you can go as deep as you like, and it's quite nice when you find a subject that you're interested in. You really can just get into it, get stuck in, and your tutors will always be there to support you learning. So in like first and second year, you usually have lectures until maybe like 2, nothing later than that. And the rest of the day is yours to do whatever you want to do with it. Most of that will be maybe reading, do some work for tutes. But otherwise, you've got a lot of time free for sports, for music, for chilling with friends. Third year is a little bit different for the medical school. So it's an FHS, final honor schools, where it's kind of like an integrated degree. So it's kind of like a research-based degree. So you'll be able to like look at specialist subjects that you're interested in, and you get a lot more choice in that area. You get to do a research project for a term over 8 weeks, where a lot of people get published, potentially if they're really into it. That's always very fun. So you're in like labs for that all around Oxford, which is great. Oxford's great for research. And then you also get to do like a submitted specialist essay on just a subject that you're interested in over the course of like 2 or 3 months. So a lot more choice in third year, which a lot of med schools don't really have. And then the last 3 years is clinical school. But yeah, just to add on to what Ellie and Sarah said, like, I think the worry that like people at Oxford don't have any social life is like, it was so unfounded when I actually got here. The clubs are a bit rubbish compared to Liverpool. You got to say it. But otherwise, like, there is so much going on every night, and because the term times are so short, it's only like 8 weeks. First of all, loads of time for holidays. Second, there's always something going on every night. I don't think I've ever had a night where I'm like struggling to find something to do. There are about 4 different events every night, which is sick. But yeah, that's a typical day. It's kind of the best thing about Oxford is you can wake up and not know what you're going to be doing for that day. It's like very, very, very fun.
Yeah, I guess to sum up, it kind of seems like our life kind of revolves around lectures and tutorials, which are like, at Cambridge, they're called supervisions, right, Lily? Tutorials and supervisions are basically at a class, you get sort of an opportunity to spend an hour and a half with your tutor, who is normally quite expert in their field, and talk about the reading that you did and the subject and the topic and what you think about it. And they ask you lots of questions and really get you to like think and get into the nitty gritty of it. And it's kind of the cornerstone of Oxford and Cambridge education, but it's always really good fun. I don't think I've ever come out of a tutorial thinking, God, that was awful. I've always thought, oh, that was so interesting. And even if it's, you know, something that I haven't been particularly interested in, like I said, I had to do physical geography last year, which I didn't really like, but the tutorials always made it slightly better. So yeah, I mean, leading on for that, one of our pre-submitted questions, actually, we had quite a lot of questions about what your experience was of applying to medicine. So I guess it's down to you, Rush, to answer that.
Yeah, so experience applying to medicine, it's a lot of hard work, isn't it? There's no way of getting around it. I think it's hard regardless of which subject you're applying for, which unis, having to do all the admissions tests and everything. The good thing is it kind of isn't any extra effort to apply to Oxford or Cambridge, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, you might be sitting the BMAT anyway, and then it's just another interview, which all the other med schools will have anyway. The interviews will be quite different to other med schools, because I think other places will do mostly multiple mini interviews, where it's kind of like different stations that you've got to go around. This will be a bit more old-fashioned, or a bit more, it was described as old-fashioned, but I think it is just more chill. You know what I mean? You just go and meet up with a tutor, sit down in the study. They'll offer you some tea and biscuits, probably. It's very, very cozy and nice and lovely. And they're doing their best not to scare you, because everyone is so scared walking in, and they know that. And then just to demystify it, medicine tutorials, like medicine interviews, like most other interviews, will essentially be them asking you a couple of basic questions to kind of gauge how much you know vaguely. But that is not the test. It doesn't matter how much you know. It's kind of, from that point, they're seeing how much they can teach you, which is the best way I can explain it. So just asking you more and more questions, trying to get you to push yourself and give things a go and get things wrong. And it's a lot more like just a conversation than like an interview, and I found myself really enjoying mine. So yeah, applying to Oxbridge as a medic is not too bad compared to just general medical admissions. But yeah, if anyone's got any more specific questions, feel free to ask.
I mean, one of the things that came up often was about work experience. I mean, you have to do work experience to apply for medicine, right?
Well, I know that especially for this year, it doesn't really matter as much what work experience you've got as much as what you take away from it. So especially this year, you know, it's been really, really hard for most people to get any sort of work experience in a hospital or in a GP given COVID. And especially like care home volunteering isn't going to happen this year, is it? So it's more what you gain from the experiences that you have, rather than saying, oh, I've spent 3 months volunteering and I've done this and this and this. Listing your work experience isn't going to tell the tutors or the admissions people anything as much as saying, I've done very limited amount, but these are the key skills and I've developed, and these are the key takeaways that I have and how it applies to medicine as a career.
Great, thank you.
For me, work experience was kind of important, but also getting work experience for psychology is kind of complex because it is a very limited profession to get access to. So I personally worked in a charity shop, and I linked that to psychology by being like, this is like my first step in helping other people, because I wanted to be a clinical psychologist when I applied to uni. So if you can link what you've done to what you're studying, that's perfect. If you can't, that's okay as well. But yeah, like Roshan said, don't just list things, just make sure you show what you've learned and stuff like that. I also had to, well, I didn't have to, but it's also useful to talk about like reading books and stuff like that are like non-fiction about mental health and stuff like that. So yeah.
Just to add on to that as well, tutors know that it's a lot easier to get work experience if you've got family who are in the NHS or doctors or whatever. So they're not gonna be very impressed by someone who's just got a million placements if they haven't taken anything away from that. So yeah, just instead of trying to get more work experience, think about the experience that you have, that you could get, and try and take away as much as possible from that and link it to the degree, like what you said.
I think that's a really good point.
So I'll just add, sort of like continuing from Lily, that work experience isn't really expected for sort of non-vocational subjects. So I think it's maybe more expected of things like medicine and law, where there's like a clear job at the end. But especially for history and English and things like that, they don't really, like, then you're not expected to have work experience. If you have, then great. And like Roshan and Lily have said, you it's important to relate it to how to link to how it relates to the subject and talk about what you've gained from it. But for a lot of humanities subjects, I think tutors care more about things like books you've read, maybe even documentaries you've watched, museum exhibitions that you've went to see. So just how you have studied your chosen subject more in your, like, voluntarily in your everyday life. So show that you're not just doing it because you're forced to in school, but that you actually, like, because they really care about having a genuine passion for your subject. Because if you're genuinely passionate, then you will want to work. And because the workload is pretty high in Oxbridge, like they want students who are willing to work. So you just show how you've like done things in your everyday life that relate to your subject, whether that's like reading books about like a chosen historical period, or going to see like plays if you're like applying for English or whatever. Like just how you've, like, that is probably more important than getting like random work experience that doesn't relate to your degree.
Okay, thank you so much. Right, we have some live questions that have been submitted. So the first one is, are there any extracurricular activities that happen on campus?
Anything you can think of. happens on campus. If you can think of it as a society or as a club, there will be one here. And if it doesn't exist, then you can be the person to start it, and there'll absolutely be a community of like-minded nerds who are into it. But yeah, I, as an example, have been involved in kind of every society I can think of. In first year, I got into like comedy stuff, so I did some stand-up and sketch comedy with our college. I ran as the ENS rep, so sort of like a social sort of rep in our JCR, and was also Lucy was the welfare rep for our college. In second year, I did a lot more music. I'm currently in a band called Dots Funk Odyssey, which is like a big Oxford funk band which plays like balls and loads of gigs around Oxford and stuff like that. I did rowing in first year as well, just to give it a try. I didn't enjoy it, but maybe you might. But yeah, there's so much stuff going on all the time. And another thing to add is we've got Wednesday afternoons off specifically for sports. So a lot of sports practice happens then, and it's guaranteed that you're free of lectures and tutes and everything.
Yeah, and you can do sport at college or uni level, can't you? So you can do it in your college community, or you can play like the University Blues, or yeah.
I'm the captain of our college netball team, and like I don't think we've won a match yet, but we just go because it's fun. But then I've got friends who are like competing on sort of a national level for the uni, so there's such a massive like range of sport that you can get involved in. Me and Roshan have got a friend who is wanting to try out as many sports as he can this week, and he's just found so many. He played like water polo yesterday. He's playing ultimate frisbee at some point. So there's like any sport you can think of, there's like some level that you can play it at. But yeah, if you like sports sort of casually but you're not very good at it, that like don't be intimidated, because there are some like not very good sports teams that you can just have a laugh with.
Yeah, and also there's lots of non-sporting events to take part in and that kind of thing.
I think honestly, just to add to that, exactly what you guys have just said, there's so many different things that you can find. Whenever I like speak about this to any friends, I love to use my household as an example, because we've all got completely different interests. So there's 4 of us, and a lot of extracurricular stuff can boil down to societies. But for example, before this call, I was just at a little party in college with fellow law students, which was very nice. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a society event. There are so many different things happening wherever you can really walk to around, I guess, campus. So for example, one of my housemates is very big into campus politics. She has just been elected as the head of our student community, which is known as the Junior Common Room, or the JCR. I'm also a member on that, and that's a really interesting way to get to meet people, to debate things. That the law degree comes out a lot there. Another one of my housemates, for example, is a big rower. So they're always on the lake, on the rivers and the lakes and things, and the boats and all kinds of sport activities. The third of my housemates has just submitted to an essay competition. He enjoys doing academics for extracurriculars. And yeah, I think it's very important, again, to emphasize, you can try anything, whether it's something that you're used to and that you've got good skills in. So for example, I'm a very proud member of the Oxford Doctor Who Society, which you wouldn't think is a thing until you get here, but we have very intense quizzes against Cambridge Doctor Who Society. And yeah, I like to say I'm a big member of that community. To new things, so for example, I'm a member of the Oxford's K-pop Dance Society, but I do not dance. I am dyspraxic. I cannot dance for the life of me. So I offer to help them out with camera work and things, which has been really exciting and something I never dreamed of doing. So yeah, if there's anything you can think of, it will come up, and you can start your own things, as I think Roshan said. So there's currently some plans at Oxford for a Scout Society, which will hopefully be very exciting and be set up. If any of you decide to apply here, then we'll be able to welcome you here, hopefully. So yeah, there's so many different opportunities.
Amazing. That sounds amazing. I mean, speaking of being Scouts, one thing that always comes up, and I know one thing that I really felt like when I was applying was whether it mattered if I had a Scouse accent. So would any of you like to sort of make comment on that?
Yeah, so this was one of the things that I was most worried about. And you may think now, because I have lost my accent a little bit, like I lose it a bit while I'm here. So you may think now like I don't have a Scouse accent, but compared to like the people here, I do. And I thought like everyone was gonna everyone was gonna like mock me for my accent. Everyone was gonna be like speaking the Queen's English. That I'd like stick out like a sore thumb. And the thing I was most worried about was that people would hear my accent and think I was like stupid or like didn't know what I was talking about or I was unintelligent. I was really worried about that. And that, like, I won't lie, the majority of people here do have quite sort of RP, I suppose we'd say posh accents. Even if they're not from like a particularly posh background, they've just got a sort of standard like Southern accent. But there's also there is a big mix of, it's a very there's a huge mix of people from different backgrounds. There's like every regional accent you can think of, there is someone with, and there's also like a lot of international students who also have, you know, their own different accents. And I think the majority of people, it's not, and they don't find it weird or strange that like I have a different accent to them. I've never like the vast majority of people have not assumed anything about me from my accent. That's not to say I don't get stick for my accent. I get a lot of sort of, I'd hope, friendly sort of digs about how I pronounce certain words. But you learn to sort of just give it right back, because at the end of the day, everyone has an accent. You know, even people with sort of like standard or posh accents, like they still have an accent. So if they say like kind of cook or chicken to me, I'll say, oh, I'm going for a dance and then a bath. So you just got to remember everyone has an accent, and there has been a few times where people have underestimated me and underestimated sort of my intelligence because of how I speak. And I've just like taken all the more pleasure in proving them wrong after that. But I'd say it's not something that like you're going to constantly be like, it would be a constant battle. It will be more just like a topic of sort of like, hate the word, but banter. Like it will just be, like most people will just, it will be friendly, and you can, as long as you can give it right back, then it is not a problem.
Yeah, same. I mean, I live with lots of people from the south of England, and one of my housemates takes real pleasure anytime I say the word mug. He goes, mug. Like, yeah, it's just one of those things. But I settled right into it. I was really, really worried before I went to my interviews, and I was like, I've got to turn off this accent, I've got to turn off this Scouse accent, you can't be Scouse, Ellie. And then I went into my second interview, and the tutor straight away put me at ease, because he was like, oh, I grew up in Crosby. So that was quite nice, really. So yeah, I think overall it's not an everyday issue, but it's something that, you know, you will be conscious of, and I think that's all right. I mean, another thing relating to that is almost the sense of imposter syndrome, or like feeling like you're an imposter. Would anyone like to make comment on that?
Yeah, this is a very common thing. I've definitely experienced this, but basically everyone I know has as well. To be fair, I don't know a lot of, like, my college doesn't have a lot of like private school students or anything like that. It's very like working class, some middle class people, but everyone struggles with it. But my supervisors, who are like tutors at Oxford, do constantly remind us that they have like chosen us to be here for a reason. Like, we are suited to this environment. We proved that in the interview. We got the grades to get in. We belong here. But it is a very like intense environment, and everyone does struggle with it. But yeah, we all do belong here, and if you do get in, you do belong here.
I think that's a really, really good summary. Regarding sort of the practicalities of living in Oxford or Cambridge, would anyone like to talk about sort of like help with living costs? And one of the live questions was asking, are there scholarship programs in Oxford and Cambridge sort of help with those costs?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak about this, particularly because I come from a zero income household. I'm from a care background, so I have no income besides university loans, which in talking about practicalities, that is your first port of call. Your teachers and schools will undoubtedly tell you about this when you're applying for university, but you can apply for a loan from the government. The word loan is really quite wrong, though. It's a bit of a scary word, but there is a lot of caveats and clauses to applying for a student loan where, you know, you're taking out so much money and you're going to be in so much debt when in reality you will never pay the full thing off. And at a certain point, it's not held against you for the rest of your life. It is written off after so many years. I think it's 30. But there are lots of useful places to get information on that. And as I say, your teachers will be the first port of call for information on student loans. In addition to student loans, you can also get additional loans from the government, which is quite useful. So for example, if you're a care leaver, you can get a care leavers kind of grant. If you have any kind of disability, specific learning difficulties, you can have additional allowance to pay for example, text-to-speech software, if that's going to be useful. And I act in college, I mentioned college politics before, I act as the student representative at college for all things bursary related. So you'll, at least at Oxford, you'll always have a student representative who will be able to talk to the bursar on your behalf and give you the brief outline and help you with any further inquiries you might need to make. And a lot of colleges do offer some funds. So for example, my college covers printing costs, they cover book costs. I got a very lovely grant to buy some technological equipment for when I was working from home, which was very nice. I got some snazzy headphones from that. So yeah, there is a lot of, I guess, scholarships particularly. I know Trinity College offers a very specific bursary to students which can go towards rent costs so that your student loan isn't all going towards, you know, paying for your electricity or your horrible southern tap water, which I frankly think is a bit of a waste, but you know.
Yeah, it sounds like every college is different, right? But the university do offer like university level scholarships and bursaries. So there's the Crank Start Scholarship at Oxford. Sorry, this is me coming from my Oxford knowledge. And also the Oxford Bursary, and they're means tested, so it depends on your household income. But also lots of colleges do sort of academic awards and prizes after exams and that kind of thing. And I'm sure that the system is the same at Cambridge in terms of means testing, financial support. I mean, hopefully, if our lovely moderators will be able to do this, he'd be able to put some links in the chat about the kind of financial support available from both the universities.
I think it's worth mentioning as well, at least for Oxford scholarships, specifically the Crank Start one that Ellie mentioned, a lot of them do come with additional opportunities for things like work experience and paid internships for over vacation time. So even there, you've got lots of different options and lots of different covers in terms of finance. And if things come to a head, you can always send an email and there'll always be someone there to help.
Great. I mean, that's one thing that's so great about Oxford and Cambridge, is that the colleges are also different. For those of you who applied to a certain college when you made your UCAS application, what were your criteria for that?
Yeah, me again, sorry. I can sum mine up very briefly. Food. I was at the open day and I was asking about college reputations. I was on my hunt again to prove once more that, you know, I'll be able to get in. So I was going to choose the most unscouse college that I could. And someone had went, oh yeah, Trinity used to have this reputation. I thought, oh, used to? Okay, no, that's not what I'm looking for in my search. And they went, yeah, but now they're just known for having really great foods. And I stopped for a moment and thought, well, I do like food, you know, but I'm not particularly a picky eater. Like, I'm vegetarian. So I was like, what are the options like there? And they were like, oh, you know, they've got different options. Like, you have more than one vegetarian option. And I immediately was drawn in by the idea of, they don't just give vegetarians blocks of cheese. Oh my God, like, this sounds amazing. So yeah, I went and had a quick look. It's absolutely gorgeous here. I'm a sucker for a pretty garden, which there's lots of them at my college. And something I would recommend to anyone who's looking to apply to a particular college at Oxford, at least Cambridge might have a equivalent, is something called the Alternative Prospectus, which I suppose if our moderator could find a link to that, that would be a very helpful resource, which is basically just a student guide to colleges, a lot less informal, and is also where I got more information on food. So yeah, definitely something I'd recommend there.
That's really funny because I applied to Worcester based on their food because they said they had the best food in Oxford. So be careful what you're reading.
We have a Michelin star here, not to brag, but
anyway,
Fancy.
so
yeah, very, very posh, very posh.
But no, I applied to Worcester. I remember I was panicking on the night before I was applying because I had no clue what the difference was between all these colleges. Like I'd looked at the alternative perspective and stuff, but I was like, I can't really see much of I think I'd be happy anywhere. You know what I mean? But yeah, I knew nothing about the colleges. It was completely foreign to me. I remember when I rocked up on the open day, I Google Maps Jordan College, which is not a real college, but it's in His Dark Materials, the books. And I was like, oh, okay, I've just Googled a fictional college as my first port of call. So I knew nothing. But yeah, I applied to Worcester because it had a lake, ended up getting pulled anyway to UNIP, where Lucy and a couple of other Scousers had applied, and could not be happier here. So at the end of the day, regardless of where you end up, you'll have a great time. I don't think college choice is that deep, really.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a really good point there, that it really doesn't matter too much what college you apply to. I mean, when you somebody's asked in the live chat about how you actually apply to Oxbridge, you do it through UCAS, which is the same as applying to other universities. But when you select Oxford or Cambridge, you can choose to select a college if you'd like to. You don't have to. You can make an open application. And also Roche mentioned about being pooled. Pooling basically just happens if one college has lots of people apply to it and one college doesn't have so many people apply to it. They might suggest that you go for an interview there, or it might happen after your interviews that you end up having an offer from a different college. But all in all, it doesn't really matter too much because you're still at the university, regardless what college you're at. Moving on, because we haven't got much time left, just very quickly, somebody's asked in the live chat how coronavirus has affected our studies. Maybe just one person to speak on this.
I can talk a bit on this. I can keep it quite brief. I'd say that obviously I'm first year, so I have been fully affected by the corona year, and I'd say that for a historian, I've not really felt it that much. Obviously stuff has moved online, but because you have quite small classes in your tutorials or your supervisions, then that's all kept, that still works really well over Zoom. It's not very disruptive, but I would say that potentially STEM has been affected a little bit more. I would say with labs, my best mate, she does medicine, and she obviously hasn't been able to go to practical stuff, which is really rubbish for her, because that's the stuff you really look forward to as well. So I'd say it really depends on what subject you were doing. In our second term, I think everyone had a bit of a rubbish time because it was the third lockdown, and all the libraries were kind of short or really full every day. But they do make an effort to move everything online. So if this stuff is still going on when you guys apply or get in, or who knows how long it's going to be, then the quality of education here will probably stay to the best degree it can be compared to other universities. There's no need to worry, but you might miss out on some of the more fun things, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, really. I mean, I'm a second year, so I got a couple of terms at Oxford before coronavirus struck. And it hasn't affected me much because I'm a social scientist, so I do a lot of my work independently anyway. I think for some STEM students, it has, caused a bit of problem with the lab work and that kind of thing. But despite that, I think the societies and the social events that have happened in Oxford and Cambridge have really kept up. I know that everybody's felt like they've been able to meet people even in this year, and especially me, I've branched out and found loads more Scouse friends, which is really nice. So there's lots of us around. But yeah, we're going to move on because we haven't got much time left. But one thing that I thought would be interesting to talk about very quickly is, did you guys ever experience any sort of bad advice when you were making your application, or any myths that you'd want to dispel just in the last 5 minutes?
I did, yeah, definitely. As I say, my whole point of applying initially was that I was told not to. So that's my first piece of bad advice. If anyone tells you not to for reasons of you don't belong there, or it's too difficult, don't listen to them. If you are interested in Oxbridge, it is your decision, and you have every power within yourself to decide, yes, I'm going to apply, I'm going to do this. And it might be a great decision, because that's what it turned out to be for me. My second bad advice that I got was for anyone who's thinking of applying to a competitive subject such as law or medicine, to go for a less competitive subject, which I'm not too sure that they exist when you apply to university. No subject is lesser. Some certainly do have more challenging reputations, but the whole point of being an Oxford or Cambridge student in my eyes is that you love your subject, you want to study this for 3 years, you've got to make sure that you're invested in what you're applying for. So if someone suggests, oh, I've heard it's easier to get into this subject, why don't you apply for that, because then you'll get into the university. Don't go for a university name. Make sure that you're enjoying what you're going to be doing for the next few years, because for some courses like medicine for Roshan, it's 6 years. That's a long time. Law is only 3, so I'm quite lucky on that part. But I was well known around school for arguing about anything and everything. I had a history with law coming from a care background, and it was something I'd been interested in for years. And one person's comment nearly threw me off of that completely. And I love my subject. I'm very passionate about the career that I want to go into. So yeah, stay true to yourself. As cheesy as that sounds, it's definitely something that you need to remember when applying.
Also, so I've someone made a comment to me, I remember at dinner once, how did you end up at UNIV? UNIV hasn't got a traditional link with Liverpool. Remember, you're not here, if you get to Oxford, you're not here to fill a quota, or because a college has a link with where you're from or whatever. You've got in off your own merit, and so you don't need to apply to certain colleges or to certain subjects because you think it will be they'll be more willing to accept you. You have got just a good chance of getting into any college. As we've talked about, you can be pulled to different places as well. So do not think that you are applying to be the token Scouser or the token Northerner. If you get in, it is of your own merit. You don't need to apply somewhere just because it's seen to have a link with a place, and therefore they'll be more lenient, because it's actually not really true. And yeah, you have just as good a chance of getting in anywhere, and if you do, it is because you deserve to be there, not because you're filling a quota.
Thank you, Lucy. I think you've hit a really good point there about believing in yourself and making sure that that you're there off your own back. That's really important. We're starting to run out of time. This hour is absolutely flown. So the final thing that I kind of wanted to ask all of you was if you had any recommendations of that one really cool resource you used when you were making your application, or retrospectively, what resource you've come across that might be really useful for the people listening who might be wanting to apply to Oxford or Cambridge.
I have, I've already mentioned the alternative prospectus for anyone looking into colleges at Oxford, but more broadly for applicants to Cambridge also, I have to talk about my own college's resources, which is something I've been working on a lot over this past year, being involved in college politics, as I mentioned. So the first one is a website called the Library Quad. It is a fairly new resource, and it is Trinity College Oxford students putting in their recommendations of subject-specific resources that we think you could use to explore your subject more. My second recommendation would be quite cringeworthy, but our college TikTok account, which is specifically run by myself and 3 other students, to give an insight into for applicants into what life at an Oxford college could be like. So we take requests if you want to see fun things, if you want advice on applications. We're always answering comments, we're always uploading new videos and giving little insights. So that would be my 2 recommendations. And yeah, hopefully there'll be some links dropped down below.
I don't have one specific resource. I would just say, look, whatever you're applying to, you have to be passionate about. So spend your summers kind of reading more into the subject that you're applying to. Find things like books, or even documentaries, or like museum exhibitions or something like that, and just like find out more about that subject. And that will be so useful to write about in your personal statement, to talk about in interviews. You just want to like, just not so that you can learn everything that there is to know, but just so you can sort of like develop your own passion and interest in your subject, because that is the thing that interviewers are really looking for. They're not looking for people who know absolutely everything about history or about chemistry or whatever. They're looking for students who are passionate and will put the work in, and are willing to learn. And so if you have done your own reading outside of school, then that will show that you're passionate and show that you are suited to the Oxbridge sort of way of teaching. So just, yeah, find something, find like a book or a documentary that is related to your subject, and just do some research and develop your interest and your passion.
To add on to that quickly, don't read or do something that you think will impress these tutors or whatever. Do it because you're interested in it, because I think your enthusiasm will actually make you want to learn more about it, and that's what they're looking for more than, you know, I read the entire Communist Manifesto because I was applying for PPE or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, read something that will spark your interest, but don't beat yourself up trying to read something really boring if it doesn't interest you.
The Communist Manifesto is a good read. I don't know what you're on about.
I would just recommend looking at any videos you can find about interviews, because that was what I was personally most stressed about, especially because I didn't get much practice. I've got like a link to a YouTube video that hopefully you guys can get. But if you can find other YouTubers that have done videos about it, it can familiarize yourself with the method that interviewers use to like see whether you're appropriate for the learning environment, and then you can like prepare yourself to an extent, but don't like rehearse answers, because they don't want to see that. They want to see how you learn in the environment.
So I've got a couple of resources. Oxford and Cambridge University podcasts, which I think are either on Spotify or a podcast app, or on, if you just Google it, you'll be able to find it. But it's basically a lot of like professors or whatever doing specific like 30-minute podcasts about an area that they're specializing in, or a bit like an interview or something, which I think is a really good way to like find out what you're interested in. Like if you can listen to like a little snapshot of HIV vaccine research or whatever and be like, oh, that's actually really cool, I want to learn more about that. So I used to just pop them on when I was walking my dog near like interviews or whatever, which is quite nice. Something I've discovered, Univ, University College Oxford, has something very similar to Library Quad called Staircase 12, which has a lot of book recommendations from people at Univ of things that they found really interesting, which is a good one to go to. And then last, this might not be as useful for the year 12s in the audience, but maybe for people who are a bit younger. There's a thing called the Eton College University Summer Schools, which is for state school kids, like 120 state school kids who apply. They have lots of bursaries and stuff to reduce any costs, but it is like a 10-day like summer school where they have like people who are essentially Oxford tutors who like just develop your interest in loads of different areas. It was really, really helpful. And they have Oxbridge students there who are really, really good to talk to. So investigate that if you're, I don't think it's happening this summer because of COVID, but if you're any of that.
Yeah, and that being said, there are lots of free summer schools around. The Sutton Trust run really great summer schools at lots of different Russell Group universities, as does Oxford. They run the Unique Summer School. And so if cost is something that you're worried about, there are so many free summer schools that you can get involved with over the summer of year 12. Sarah, do you want to add yours?
Yeah, I'll be dead quick.
Don't worry.
I would just say that the Sutton Trust, especially, I've just thought of this. If you are eligible to social mobility, they were really helpful for me. So you can have a look on the Sutton Trust website, see if you're eligible, or ask your school, because they were really helpful for me, and they got me interview practice, and they run specific Oxbridge workshops. So have a look into that, especially working class kids. It's really, really important. And specific things for like tests and interviews, I'd say for the tests, so I had to do the HAT test, and most people have to do an admissions test. I'd say practice them, look at the past papers, plan them all out, get your teachers to mark them if possible, just really get into it. and it'll just make the whole process a little bit easier. And I think a really important point for interviews is it's okay not to know the answer, just don't go silent and just think out loud, because they want to see you being adaptable and they want to see you be able to interact with new information. It's okay if you don't know the answer. I sat there for 30 seconds solid, like I don't know, but just kind of keep going, keep clucking in your head. They just want to see you interact with information.
That's really great. Thank you, Sarah. I guess I didn't use InsideUni when I was applying because it hadn't reached Oxford yet, but the resource I'm going to recommend, shameless plug, is InsideUni. We, for a year of admissions test, we have admissions test guides, we have course pages and subject guides for every course available at Oxford and Cambridge. And we also have our interview testimonies, which are really helpful for you to get to grips with the style of the interview. And hopefully Tommy will put those in the chat. So that's pretty much it. We've sort of hit the hour. So I'm going to round up the Q&A. Firstly, thank you to everybody watching or listening for coming. I hope that it's been really useful for you today. And I'm also going to extend that thanks to our lovely panelists who have given up their time to join us here today. I know Alice left her law drinks, and thank you so much to all of you for coming. I really, really appreciate it. Just a quick reminder that you can find the link to both InsideUni and Aspire Liverpool in the chat. Please do follow InsideUni on social media. We have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and share this Q&A with your friends if they'd like to watch it. It will be available on YouTube as a full video afterwards. So yeah, check out our website for information, advice, and to hear about more upcoming events like this one. And with that, I will say bye for now, and I'll let everyone else say bye as well. And for all of you wanting to apply, the 6 of us wish you the very best of luck. So bye-bye.